I once worked with a client who went on a date with a guy, and the guy decided that all women love rough sex, so he started having rough sex with her. He ended up in the hospital with a stiletto shoe going all the way through his foot. This was all a surprise for her, so consequently that became a surprise for him. Rough sex. Do women actually like rough sex? This is a very important question that a lot of guys are really confused about, and they make really big mistakes. Big mistakes with big consequences. So I'm going to tell you what I've learned from my 20 years of working with women as a sex therapist, working with real women, not porn women, I mean. And I will tell you from their words, from their experiences, from what they shared with me, what they really think about rough sex, how it really works for them, and should you do it. So first of all, I want no confusion here what we are talking about. BDSM is not rough sex. BDSM is actually not rough. It doesn't look violent. It's a very ritualized practice where you explore specific sensations, specific psychology with rules, with consent. None of it is violent. Rough sex is basically aggressive sex. It is violent sex where you are treating her body aggressively and violently. You are grabbing her really hard, you are slamming her, you are throwing her around, you are pinning her down, you are banging her really, really hard, you are choking her, pulling her hair, grabbing her hair, things like this. So it's basically sex that is violent, it is aggressive, it looks violent, it looks aggressive from the side, but both people are presumably enjoying it because it turns them on. So a lot of guys believe that women really love rough sex and this will feel really hot for her and really turn her on. She will absolutely love it. So over the 20 years of working with women, with thousands of women, one of the most common complaints I keep hearing is that guys are just too aggressive, too violent, too rough with her body in sex. And this isn't meant in some kind of a hot way, like anticipation, like this is so hot. No, this is said to me always with exhaustion and tiredness and depression and anger. That guys so often are such aggressive and violent beasts, and women can simply not understand why guys believe that they have to be these aggressive and violent beasts. And at the same time, when I work with men, so often I hear this concern that they have, that they're not rough enough, they're not violent enough, they need to step it up, they need to fuck her even harder to be a good lover. Do you see how unhealthy this situation is? Now, this all comes from guys being really brainwashed, so much so that you might be listening to me thinking, who is this random guy telling me that it's not true what everybody knows is true, that women really love being a bit roughed up and being treated aggressively. Everybody knows this. Yes, that is probably the impression you have got because the brainwashing is so widespread. So one of the reasons, of course, is porn. Porn is so violent and aggressive. All these girls look like they're really enjoying it. And these images get imprinted into your brain thousands of times. Even if you understand that you shouldn't believe everything you see in porn, you understand this logically, but your brain is conditioned. It learns that women really love being treated aggressively because your brain has seen it 1,000 times. Why can't you believe anything you see in porn? Because this girl is not there to enjoy herself, she's there to earn money. The director tells her what to do. The director looks at the stats on Pornhub, sees what are the most popular videos that you want to watch. He tells her to do that. He tells her to look like she's enjoying it because you will pay for it. That's why she looks like she's enjoying it. It's got nothing to do with what she really enjoys in life. And then there are too many irresponsible so-called sex teachers and sex channels and sex media that is telling you all the time, how hot it is when you are being rough and aggressive with a woman because they know that you want this content. So they will happily feed it to you and they will make it look like women really love this kind of stuff. Guys, please stop giving women rough sex like that is the best thing you can give her. This is absolutely crazy and tragic that this has become the belief. There is a small number of women for who rough sex is the best sex ever, but this is a small minority. Women love sex that is slow, sensual, really loving, intimate. It's not fluffy, it's not lovey-dovey and just cuddling. You make it really sexual. You really know how to treat her body to create the best sensation, the best sexual energy. You make it erotic, you make it sexy, but it is loving, it is sensual. This is the best kind of sex for her, where she's going to feel the most fulfilling, incredible experience. You're really going to make her deeply happy like nobody else with this kind of sex because everybody else is giving her rough sex. And she's going to absolutely adore you for it. She's going to flourish with her sexual energy from this kind of sex. Now, you might be under the impression that a lot of women like rough sex from your experience with women or from what you hear from women in your personal life or online. But the picture is a lot more complicated. Maybe she likes aggressive sex sometimes, but she also likes other kinds of sex, maybe even more. Maybe aggressive sex makes her feel something because she has never had really good, loving sex that would make her feel a lot more. Maybe she's just performing to please the guy, to not lose the guy, to just give a good porn performance because that is how she's got used to having sex. Maybe she's really trying to like rough sex and she's trying to convince herself that she likes it because she can't get anything else really in this day and age. So she's psyching herself up for this. And that is something I'm going to cover in another upcoming video on why women look like they enjoy rough sex when they actually don't. So look out for that as well, I will explain that. But in most of these cases, women just need a really good experience from a guy of really powerful, loving, sensual sex. And then they can see how much better it is. And even women who are into rough sex and it turns them on, they suddenly see how shallow it was, how little they got out of it. They often see how much more of real satisfaction, real happiness they get from loving and sensual sex when it is done really well. Now, the only thing to understand about this is that women need to receive sex that is loving and sensual, but also really good and sexy. Because a lot of the time women have this confusion that they are into something more intense and more rough, because they have tried something loving and sensual, so to speak, but it was just really bad. And it didn't make them feel anything, and it felt really bland and impotent. So women have been left with this impression that it doesn't work for them, that they need something rough. But it's only because it was bad. If it was good, she would get a lot more out of it. She would love it a lot more than something rough. Now, this would be a good point for me to advertise my program for men, where I teach you how to give her really powerful, sensual, loving sex. So check that out. That's in the link below the video in the description. It's going to be opening very shortly, so go have a look at it, and I will teach you everything about that kind of really powerful sex, the best experience that you can give to a woman. There is only one exception when rough sex is okay to do, and that is when the woman has told you that she likes rough sex, okay? Maybe you asked her, is she into that? And she told you that she is, or maybe she just voiced it herself. Then do rough sex with her, but never ever do rough sex with a woman from who you haven't found out first that she is into it. Don't just offer it. Don't just try your luck. That is really a bad idea. For most women, it's going to be an experience where you have abused her body, you treated it violently and aggressively. Now, in the best case scenario, a woman will just think, well, he was a bit of a dickhead. In the worst case scenario, you have traumatized somebody because you have actually treated her body abusively and aggressively and violently. She did not perceive it as hot. This could be somebody who was previously sexually assaulted. It could be somebody who has been traumatized in the past, who's been abused. It could be somebody who was nearly assaulted, but it is still in her memory. This could be somebody who hasn't been assaulted, but she has a sensitive and delicate nature that will be really impressed by this experience. And even though you didn't mean to assault her, she will process it as something violent and aggressive that has happened to her. When women are raped, they often don't struggle and they don't say no, and there is nothing illogical here. This is very logical. If somebody is robbing you, if you're held up at a gunpoint, you just hand over your wallet. You don't, get into a pose and start fighting them. So when a woman is in a situation where she's being raped, she simply hands herself over to survive. This is not something that you might be able to perceive. So you're having rough sex with a woman and you're expecting her to say no when she doesn't like it, but she might not say no. She might have already decided that this has turned into a sexual assault without you being aware of it, and she's just trying to survive through it. So this is not something to be volunteered. It is not something to be tried. It is something to, you really need to know about the person first, that they're really into it. Before you ever do that in sex, don't just come along to a date with your, rough sex skills. And most importantly, whatever reason this woman might have for enjoying rough sex sometimes, I can guarantee you that you're going to give her much better sex by learning properly how to give her loving, sensual, slow sex. Always much better kind of sex.